Absolutely, but it's not on the agenda. We have to live with the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be. We can try to improve it, but right now we have an imminent problem. The choices for Ukraine are either permanent war and destruction with everything else for the world, or else some kind of federal arrangement. It's far from ideal. It's far from ideal in Belgium. I can tell you some personal anecdotes. Just a couple of years ago, I was lecturing in the Dutch area, and the guy who organized the lecture is a linguist friend of mine. My wife, former wife, she's died at the time, and his wife were out shopping somewhere during the morning lectures. We were going to meet for lunch. So he went to the desk of the at the university and asked the secretary there to call a taxi. And we waited, no taxi came, waited, no taxi came. Finally, we came back to her. He came back and asked her, what's the problem? She was desperate. She said she's only allowed to talk Dutch, Flemish, and the taxi drivers are all French. They pretend not to understand. Of course, they all understand, but they pretend not to understand. So there's no way for her to call a taxi. Okay, that's a nuisance, but it's better than killing each other, you know. So for Ukraine, that's the optimal situation at the moment. I don't know if it can be achieved, but it's the best that you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, there are much better solutions. Well, there's a similar situation in the United States with statues and names of buildings after Confederate generals, utter racist, extreme racists like Woodrow Wilson. My opinion is with those who want to leave the statues. I would say leave the statues with a plaque or maybe another statue illustrating what actually happened. I think that's the right idea. Let's not erase the history. Let's expose the history so people understand it. And as you said, it's not ancient history. What Belgium did in 1960 is one of the worst crimes of the century. Africa was beginning to decolonize. The most important country in Africa is Congo. Rich country, could be one of the richest countries in the world. Enormous resources and tremendous potential. It had a charismatic leader, young leader, very smart guy. Patrice Lumumba could have led the country forward to develop, to become a major power, could have led all of Africa behind it. Well, the CIA had a contract to kill him, but Belgian intelligence got there first. They killed him. Then they, along with the United States, supported this. First of all, Katanga, then this vicious kleptomaniac, Mobutu, who destroyed the country. By now, millions of people, millions are dying in Eastern Congo, while the multinationals hover over the militias so they can pick up the minerals for your iPhone. That's Belgium. That's what Belgium did in 1960. It's not just this monster Leopold. It's today, right in front of our eyes. Well, I think it should be exposed. In the United States, huge battle about it. We're going to see more of it in November. Censorship is becoming much more extreme in the United States, much more than we've discussed. There's now literal banning of books in libraries. And Trump actually didn't manage to pass it, but he, at the end of his administration, he proposed a federal law to ban teaching in schools of anything that might be divisive or might cause children to feel uncomfortable. That's a code word for teaching anything about American history. Like every history of every country has plenty in it to make people feel uncomfortable. So if you ban that, you're saying nothing but patriotic slogans, okay? We all have to goose step to command and chant patriotic slogans. That's the ideal of the Republican Party, which is taking power. It's already happening in states. Republican-run states, they're banning books from libraries. They're not allowing them to be read in school. Even people like Toni Morrison can't read her in school, but because it makes white kids feel uncomfortable. We're moving towards what we're moving towards in the United States is a frightening form of a curious kind of totalitarianism where people aren't thrown into jail, like I'm allowed to speak, but with the kind of marginalization and demonization that you can read in the European press, more extreme here, but no gulag, but just what used to be called soft fascism, fascism without the concentration camps, without the extermination camps, but fascism.